The morning sun cast long shadows across the wheat fields of New Eden Colony as Jake Morrison walked through the settlement's main street. Children ran between the houses, their laughter echoing off the simple wooden buildings that made up this peaceful world on the edge of human space. Jake smiled as he watched them play, remembering when he was their age back on Earth, before he decided to make a new life among the stars. "Good morning, Administrator," called out Martha Collins from her bakery doorway. The smell of fresh bread filled the air, mixing with the sweet scent of blooming flowers that lined the pathways. Jake waved back, feeling grateful for the simple life they had built here, far from the politics and conflicts of the inner systems. Lisa Grant approached from the security office, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. As chief of security, she took her job seriously, even though crime was almost non-existent in their small community of 3,000 souls. "Jake, we need to talk about the sensor readings from last night," she said, her voice carrying a note of concern that made Jake's stomach tighten. They walked together toward the communications center, where Ben Carter was already at his post, monitoring the radio channels that connected New Eden to the rest of human space. Ben looked up as they entered, his young face creased with worry. "The readings are getting stronger," he said, pointing to his displays. "Whatever's out there, it's big and it's getting closer." Jake studied the data, trying to make sense of the strange energy signatures that had appeared on their long-range sensors 3 days ago. New Eden was supposed to be safe, hidden away in a quiet corner of space where nothing interesting ever happened. That was exactly why they had chosen this world, to escape the dangers and complications of more populated systems. "Could be a merchant convoy," Jake suggested, though he didn't really believe it. The energy patterns were unlike anything in their databases, and merchant ships rarely traveled this far from the main trade routes. Lisa shook her head. "Merchants don't move in formations like that. I count at least 12 vessels, all maintaining perfect spacing. That's military discipline, Jake." Before Jake could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the settlement. Ben's hands flew across his console as new contacts appeared on the display, much closer than the mysterious fleet they had been tracking. "Ships dropping out of hyperspace," he announced, his voice tight with fear. "Multiple contacts, directly above the colony." Jake rushed to the window and looked up at the sky. What he saw made his blood run cold. Massive crystalline vessels hung in the air like frozen lightning, their surfaces reflecting the sunlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, clearly the product of a technology far beyond human understanding. "Get on the emergency channel," Jake ordered. "Send a message to Colonial Defense Command. Tell them we have unknown alien vessels in our airspace." Ben's fingers worked frantically at his controls, but before he could establish contact, beams of pure energy lanced down from the alien ships. The communications array exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal, cutting New Eden off from the rest of human space. Amy Rodriguez burst through the door, still pulling on her Colonial Defense Force uniform. As the captain in charge of New Eden's small garrison, she had been preparing her troops for what looked like an impossible fight. "Jake, we need to evacuate the civilians. My people can't hold off ships like that with what we've got." More energy beams struck the settlement, targeting the power plant and the few defensive installations that protected the colony. Buildings erupted in flames as the alien weapons carved through walls like they were made of paper. Jake could hear screaming from the streets as people ran for shelter that wouldn't protect them from weapons of such devastating power. "The children," Jake said, thinking of the youngsters he had seen playing just minutes before. "We have to get them to the shelters." Amy nodded grimly. "My soldiers are already working on it, but I don't think the shelters will help. These aliens aren't playing games, Jake. They're not trying to capture the colony. They're trying to destroy it. Through the window, Jake watched as more alien vessels landed in the fields outside town. Strange beings emerged from the ships, their bodies seeming to be made of the same crystalline material as their vessels. They moved with mechanical precision, setting up equipment that began tearing into the ground, searching for something beneath the surface. "They're mining," Lisa observed, her voice filled with disgust. "They're killing us for our minerals." Ben managed to get one last message out before the aliens destroyed the backup transmitter. "Mayday, Mayday, this is New Eden Colony. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. Send help." The transmission cut off as another energy beam reduced the communications building to rubble. Jake made a decision that would change everything. He remembered the stories his grandfather had told him, tales of Earth's darkest days when humanity had faced extinction from alien invaders. Those stories spoke of a secret protocol, a last resort that had been prepared for situations exactly like this. Racing to his office, Jake pulled out an ancient key that had been passed down through his family for generations. His grandfather had made him promise to keep it safe, though he had never explained what it was for. Now Jake understood. Behind a hidden panel in his desk was a device that looked impossibly old, its metal surface covered in symbols that predated modern human technology. "What is that?" Lisa asked as she followed him into the office. "Something my grandfather left me," Jake replied, his hands shaking as he inserted the key into the device. "He told me stories about the old days, when Earth almost fell to alien invaders. He said humanity had prepared for this day, that guardians were sleeping, waiting for the call." The device activated with a low hum, its ancient circuits coming to life after decades of silence. A single red light began blinking on its surface, sending out a signal that would travel faster than light across the galaxy, carrying a message that hadn't been sent in over 200 years. Outside, the alien attack continued with methodical precision. Colonial Defense Force soldiers fought bravely against overwhelming odds, their primitive weapons barely scratching the crystalline armor of their enemies. Amy's troops managed to save hundreds of civilians, but thousands more were captured or killed as the aliens completed their conquest of New Eden. By sunset, the colony was in ruins. The aliens had established mining operations across the planet's surface, their machines digging deep into the earth to extract the rare minerals that had drawn them here. They paid no attention to the human survivors, treating them like insects that weren't worth the effort to swat. Jake Morrison stood in the ruins of his office, watching alien ships patrol the skies above his destroyed home. The ancient beacon continued its silent transmission, sending its cry for help into the depths of space. He didn't know if anyone would receive the message, or if the old stories were just myths his grandfather had used to give him hope. But somewhere, in the darkness between the stars, ancient systems were awakening, and humanity's sleeping guardians were beginning to stir. The aliens had made a terrible mistake when they attacked New Eden Colony. They had awakened something that had slumbered for centuries, something that would not rest until every threat to humanity had been eliminated. The dragons were stirring, and their fury would shake the galaxy. Deep beneath the Pentagon's lowest levels, an alarm that had been silent for 200 years suddenly began to wail. The sound echoed through corridors that most government officials didn't even know existed, past security doors marked within. Warnings in languages that were no longer taught in schools. General Patricia Hayes dropped her coffee cup when the emergency alert reached her secure phone, the ceramic shattering on the floor of her office as she ran toward the elevators that would take her into the depths of Earth's most classified facility. The elevator descended for what felt like forever, passing through layers of rock and steel that protected humanity's greatest secrets from the world above. When the doors finally opened, Patricia found herself in a room filled with computers that looked ancient but were somehow more advanced than anything currently in use by the military. Dr. Kevin Nash was already there, his face pale as he stared at the displays showing data from across the galaxy. "How long has it been active?" Patricia asked, her voice tight with concern. She had been briefed about this possibility when she took command of Special Operations, but she had never expected to see it happen during her lifetime. 43 minutes, Kevin replied, pointing to a signal that pulsed steadily on the main screen. "The beacon is transmitting from the outer rim. Coordinates match the new Eden colony. We're receiving reports of an alien attack, complete destruction of the settlement and surrounding area." Patricia felt a chill run down her spine as she remembered the classified files she had read about humanity's first contact with hostile aliens. The attack had been swift and brutal, nearly wiping out Earth's population before desperate measures had saved them. Those measures had been so extreme that they were locked away after the crisis passed, deemed too dangerous for peacetime use. Admiral Chris Bennett arrived within minutes, his uniform hastily thrown on over civilian clothes. He had been at home with his family when the emergency call came, enjoying a quiet evening that now seemed like a luxury from another world. "Please tell me this is a false alarm," he said, though he could see from their faces that his hope was misplaced. "I'm afraid not," Patricia replied, handing him a tablet with the preliminary reports. "Unknown alien forces have destroyed New Eden Colony and established mining operations on the planet. Intelligence suggests they view humans as a primitive species suitable for exploitation." Chris read through the data with growing anger. The aliens had shown no mercy to the colonists, treating them like animals to be slaughtered or enslaved. Children had been killed alongside their parents, and the few survivors were being forced to work in brutal conditions. "What do we know about these aliens?" he asked. Kevin pulled up another display showing blurry images captured by the colonies. Sensors before they were destroyed. "They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire. Our xenobiology databases suggest they're silicon-based life forms with crystalline structures that give them natural armor. They've been expanding across their sector of the galaxy for decades, conquering every species they encounter." "How many worlds have they taken?" Patricia asked, though she dreaded the answer. "At least 47 that we know of," Kevin replied. "They seem to follow the same pattern every time. Sudden attack, complete conquest, followed by strip mining. Operations and enslavement of any survivors. They're very efficient at what they do." Admiral Bennett closed his eyes, feeling the weight of command settling on his shoulders. He had hoped to spend his career in peacetime, managing the defense of human space through diplomacy and deterrence rather than warfare. Now he was faced with an enemy that had already proven they couldn't be reasoned with. "We need to activate Protocol Dragon," Patricia said quietly, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Everyone in the room knew what that meant, though none of them had ever expected to hear those words spoken aloud. Chris opened the sealed orders that had been placed in his personal safe when he became Admiral of the Fleet. The envelope was marked with symbols that predated the current government, warnings that this information was only to be accessed in the most extreme circumstances. Inside, he found coordinates to a facility that officially didn't exist and authorization codes that would give him access to humanity's most closely guarded secret. "Facility Omega," he read from the document. "Located in the asteroid belt, Sector 7. Classification level Beyond Black. Guardian protocols active since 2157. He looked up at the others. "I thought this was just a legend." "The Dragon Corps is very real," Patricia assured him. 78 genetically enhanced super soldiers, created during the Proxima War when Earth faced complete annihilation. They were put into cryosleep after the threat was eliminated, deemed too dangerous for normal society. Each dragon has enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, and intelligence. More importantly, they were psychologically conditioned for one specific purpose. "Which is?" Chris asked, though he suspected he already knew. The complete and utter destruction of any threat to humanity, Kevin answered. They're not soldiers, in the traditional sense. They're weapons designed to eliminate enemies that conventional forces can't handle. The scientists who created them called it humanity's nuclear option. The journey to Facility Omega took 6 hours aboard the fastest ship in the fleet. Chris stood on the bridge, watching the asteroid grow larger on the view screen, its surface scarred by what looked like natural impacts, but were actually camouflaged weapon emplacements. The facility had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, invisible to any scanning technology known to exist. Colonel Rachel Stone met them at the airlock, her uniform bearing insignia that hadn't been used by the military in decades. She was one of only 12 people who knew the full truth about the Dragon cores, tasked with maintaining the facility and its sleeping occupants through the long years of peace. General Hayes, Admiral Bennett, she said formally. I assume you're here about the beacon activation. How quickly can they be awakened? Patricia asked without preamble. Time was critical now that humanity faced an existential threat from an enemy that had already proven their willingness to commit genocide. The process takes 18 hours for full revival, Rachel replied, leading them through corridors lined with cryochambers. We can have the first squad operational within 24 hours, the full complement within 72. But you need to understand what you're unleashing here. These aren't normal soldiers. They stopped before a chamber containing a figure that looked human, but somehow more than human. The man inside was tall and powerfully built, his features sharp and intelligent even in sleep. According to the nameplate, this was Unit Commander Alex Turner, first of the Dragons to be created and leader of the program. Each dragon was selected from the best candidates Earth could produce, Rachel explained. Olympic athletes, military special forces, scientific geniuses. Then they were enhanced beyond the limits of normal human biology. Increased muscle density, reinforced bones, enhanced nervous systems that allow reaction times measured in milliseconds. Their brains were modified to process information at superhuman speeds. What about their psychological conditioning? Chris asked, remembering the warnings in his sealed orders. That's where it gets complicated, Rachel admitted. They were programmed with an absolute loyalty to humanity and an equally absolute hatred of any species that threatens us. In combat, they don't experience fear, doubt, or mercy toward enemies. They're perfect killing machines wrapped in human skin. Kevin studied the readouts from the cryo chamber, noting the biological modifications that made these sleeping figures into something beyond normal humanity. The enhancement process was irreversible, he observed. Once awakened, they can never return to being normal humans. That's correct, Rachel confirmed. They'll live for centuries, always ready to fight humanity's battles. They were created to be eternal guardians, sleeping until needed, but never truly at peace. The psychological profiles suggest they'll struggle to integrate with normal society. After prolonged activation, Patricia made the decision that would change the course of human history. Begin the awakening process immediately. Start with Commander Turner and his senior staff. We need them operational as soon as possible. Alarms began sounding throughout the facility as ancient systems came online. Cryochambers that had maintained their occupants in perfect stasis for over 2 centuries started their revival sequences. Inside the chambers, enhanced hearts began beating again. Modified brains started processing information, and eyes that had been closed since humanity's last great crisis slowly opened. Alex Turner was the first to awaken, his enhanced metabolism allowing him to recover from cryosleep faster than normal humans. His eyes snapped open with perfect clarity, immediately scanning his surroundings for threats. When he spoke, his voice was calm and controlled, despite having been asleep for 200 years. Status report, he requested, sitting up in his chamber as medical sensors confirmed his vital signs were within normal parameters for a dragon operative. His enhanced hearing had already detected the alarm signals, his modified brain processing the acoustic patterns to determine the facilities. Current alert status. Rachel stepped forward with a tablet containing the briefing materials about the Zephyrian attack. Alex Turner stood in the briefing room of Facility Omega, his enhanced mind processing the flood of information about the current state of human space. 200 years of technological advancement, political changes, and social evolution absorbed in minutes through data feeds designed for his modified brain. Around him, 4 other dragons underwent the same process, their superhuman intelligence adapting to the modern world with frightening speed. Danny Clark was the first to finish his briefing downloads, his specialty in electronic warfare making, him particularly interested in current computer systems. His fingers moved across holographic displays with impossible precision, learning new programming languages and security protocols in seconds. The technology has improved significantly, he observed, his voice carrying the same emotionless tone that marked all dragon operatives. But the basic principles remain the same. Maria Santos focused on weapons and tactics, studying the combat reports from human conflicts over the past 2 centuries. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to visualize battle scenarios with perfect clarity, seeing patterns and opportunities that normal soldiers would miss. Human military doctrine has become softer, she noted. Too much concern for civilian casualties and collateral damage. Ryan Cooper examined the intelligence about Zephyrian technology, his expertise in demolitions and sabotage, making him valuable for understanding enemy weaknesses. Their crystalline structure provides excellent protection against energy weapons, he said, but it should be brittle against certain types of kinetic impact. We can exploit that. Elena Rodriguez processed diplomatic and intelligence data, her role as information specialist requiring her to understand the broader political situation. The Zephyrians have conquered 47 worlds using the same pattern. They rely on technological superiority and psychological intimidation. They don't expect serious resistance. Admiral Bennett watched the dragons work with a mixture of awe and unease. These were humans, but they were something more and something less at the same time. Their enhanced abilities were impressive, but their complete lack of normal human emotion was disturbing. They discussed the deaths of thousands of colonists with the same detachment they might use to analyze weather patterns. Your first mission will be the liberation of Centauri Station, General Hayes announced, displaying a holographic star map. 50,000 civilians are being held there under brutal conditions. The Zephyrians have turned the station into a processing facility for captured humans and resource extraction. Alex studied the tactical situation with his team, their enhanced minds working in perfect coordination. The station was heavily defended by Zephyrian forces, with patrol ships, defensive platforms, and a garrison of crystalline soldiers. Any conventional assault would result in massive casualties among both attackers and the civilian prisoners. We'll need a stealth approach, Alex decided. The Nemesis should be sufficient for infiltration. The Nemesis was a prototype stealth destroyer, equipped with technology that made it invisible to most known sensor systems. It had been designed specifically for Dragon operations, with enhanced life support and weapon systems that could be operated by superhuman crews. Colonel Stone provided them with the ship's specifications and current location. The Nemesis has been maintained in perfect condition for 2 centuries, she assured them. All systems have been upgraded with the latest technology available. You'll have access to weapons and equipment that most military units can only dream about. The journey to Centauri Station took 3 days through hyperspace, during which the Dragons prepared for their first mission in over 200 years. They moved through the ship with fluid grace, their enhanced bodies requiring less sleep and food than normal humans. Alex spent hours in the training facilities, maintaining the combat skills that had been burned into his modified brain through years of conditioning. Danny worked with the ship's electronic warfare systems, learning how to interface with Zephyrian technology. His enhanced mind could process alien programming languages and security protocols, turning enemy systems against themselves. Their communication networks use quantum encryption, he reported. But the base algorithms are similar to systems we encountered during the Proxima War. Maria practiced with the ship's weapons array, her superhuman reflexes allowing her to target multiple enemies simultaneously. The Nemesis carried projectile weapons designed specifically for use against crystalline structures, kinetic rounds that could shatter Zephyrian armor through precise application of force. The ammunition is optimized for their physiology, she noted with satisfaction. Ryan studied the station's structural blueprints, identifying key points where explosive charges could disable critical systems without harming civilian areas. His enhanced spatial reasoning allowed him to visualize the complex three-dimensional structure in perfect detail. We can cut their power grid in 47 locations, he calculated. That will force them to rely on backup systems we can control. Elena intercepted Zephyrian communications, her modified brain translating their language patterns in real time. They're discussing expansion plans, she reported. 20 more human colonies are marked for conquest within the next 6 months. They consider us an easy target species. As the Nemesis dropped out of hyperspace near Centauri Station, the Dragons saw their enemy for the first time. The station had been transformed from a peaceful trading post into a nightmare of industrial extraction. Zephyrian ships swarmed around, the structure like metallic insects, while the station itself showed signs of hasty modifications designed to process human prisoners. Paul Jenkins, the station's former commander, was still alive according to intercepted communications. He had been kept as a source of information about human systems and procedures, though his usefulness to the Zephyrians was rapidly declining. Intelligence suggested he had less than a week before they decided to dispose of him. Initiating stealth. Approach, Alex announced as the Nemesis became invisible to enemy sensors. The ship moved through the Zephyrian patrol patterns like a ghost, its advanced technology rendering it undetectable to crystalline detection systems. The Dragons prepared for boarding operations, checking their equipment one final time before entering combat. Their armor was unlike anything used by conventional forces, designed specifically for their enhanced physiology and combat capabilities. The suits provided additional protection while amplifying their already superhuman strength and speed. Weapons were similarly specialized, built to be operated by soldiers with reflexes measured in milliseconds and accuracy that bordered on perfection. Remember, Alex told his team as they prepared to board the station, we are not here to take prisoners or show mercy to our enemies. The Zephyrians chose to make war on humanity. Now they will learn what that choice costs. The Dragons moved through the station's docking bays like shadows, their presence undetected by alien sensors designed to track normal humans. What the Zephyrians encountered was something far beyond their experience. Soldiers who moved faster than their eyes could follow and struck with precision that seemed impossible. Danny's first target was the station's computer center, where Zephyrian technicians monitored human prisoners and coordinated mining operations. He entered the facility through ventilation systems too small for normal humans, his enhanced flexibility allowing him to navigate spaces that would be impossible for conventional soldiers. The alien technicians died before they could sound an alarm, their crystalline bodies shattering under kinetic impacts delivered with surgical precision. Maria led the assault on the station's armory, where Zephyrian soldiers stored their weapons and prepared for patrol duties. She moved through their barracks like a force of nature, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to engage multiple enemies simultaneously. The aliens' energy weapons proved useless against her armor, while our kinetic rounds punched through their crystalline shells with devastating effect. Ryan targeted the station's power systems, placing explosive charges with mathematical precision. Each detonation was carefully calculated to disable Zephyrian equipment while leaving human areas intact. Within minutes, backup power systems came online, but these were already under Danny's control through electronic warfare techniques. Elena coordinated the rescue of human prisoners, her enhanced senses leading her through the station's modified sections to where civilians were being held. The conditions were worse than intelligence reports had suggested, with humans being used as forced labor in dangerous mining operations. Many prisoners were injured or sick from brutal treatment, but they were alive. The liberation of Centauri station took exactly 11 hours and 37 minutes. When it was over, every Zephyrian on the station was dead. 50,000 human prisoners were free, and the dragons had sent a clear message to the enemy. Humanity was no longer the helpless prey the aliens had expected to find. Alex stood in the station's command center, watching as rescued prisoners were evacuated to safety. His enhanced hearing picked up their grateful words, but his modified psychology prevented him from feeling the satisfaction that normal humans would experience. He was a weapon, and weapons didn't need emotional rewards for completing their function. The victory at Centauri Station sent shockwaves across the galaxy, but Admiral Bennett knew it was only the beginning of a much larger war. Intelligence reports flooded in from across human space, revealing the true scope of the Zephyrian threat. The crystal aliens had established forward bases in 12 star systems, each one serving as a staging point for further expansion into human territory. In the briefing room aboard the command ship Titan, Admiral Bennett stood before a holographic display showing Zephyrian positions throughout the sector. General Hayes joined him via secure communication from Earth, her expression grim as she reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Zephyrians are accelerating their expansion timeline, she announced. Our sources indicate they plan to attack 20 more colonies within the next month. Alex Turner and his expanded dragon force stood at attention, their enhanced minds already processing the tactical implications of the new intelligence. The successful liberation of Centauri Station had proven their effectiveness, but it had also revealed how vast their enemy's forces truly were. 50 dragons, no matter how capable, could not be everywhere at once. We need to strike at their infrastructure, Alex stated, his emotionless voice cutting through the tension in the room. Individual rescue missions will not stop their advance. We must cripple their ability to support their expansion. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the newest addition to the Dragon Corps, stepped forward with her medical analysis of the rescued prisoners from Centauri Station. Her enhanced intellect had allowed her to process the victims' testimonies with superhuman efficiency, revealing disturbing patterns in Zephyrian behavior. The aliens are conducting experiments on captured humans, she reported. They're studying our biology, our psychology, our weaknesses. Marcus Thompson, the heavy weapons specialist, whose massive frame made him imposing even among the dragons, examined the intelligence about Zephyrian fleet yards at Kepler 442. Their shipbuilding facility produces one cruiser every 6 days. He calculated, if we can destroy their construction capabilities, we can prevent them from reinforcing their forces. Commander Lisa Park, leader of Beta Squad, studied the data about the Zephyrian capital world. Her team specialized in infiltration and intelligence gathering, skills that would be crucial for understanding enemy strategic planning. We need information about their high command structure, she insisted. Tactical victories won't matter if we don't understand their long-term goals. Admiral Bennett approved a bold strategy that would split the dragons into multiple strike teams, each targeting a different aspect of Zephyrian military power. It was a dangerous plan that would stretch their limited resources, but conventional forces simply couldn't match the aliens' technological advantages. Alpha Squad, led by Alex Turner, would assault the fleet yards at Kepler 442. The facility was protected by a battle fleet of 50 Zephyrian warships, making it seemingly impossible to attack with conventional forces. But the Dragons were far from conventional, and their ship Nemesis had capabilities that enemy commanders couldn't anticipate. Beta Squad, under Lisa Park's command, would infiltrate the Zephyrian homeworld to gather intelligence and rescue any human prisoners held there. Tony Garcia, their infiltration specialist, had studied alien security protocols until he could navigate their systems better than their own technicians. Kelly Brooks, their communications expert, could intercept and decode Zephyrian transmissions. In real time, the journey to Kepler 442 took Alpha Squad through contested space where Zephyrian patrol fleets hunted for human ships. The Nemesis moved like a ghost through enemy formations, its stealth technology rendering it invisible to crystalline sensors. Alex watched the enemy ships on his displays, studying their movement patterns and tactical doctrines with his enhanced analytical abilities. Their formations are rigid, Maria Santos observed, her combat experience allowing her to identify weaknesses in enemy deployment. They rely too heavily on their technological advantages and don't adapt well to unexpected tactics. Danny Clark worked at his electronic warfare station, preparing to turn the Zephyrians' own systems against them when the battle began. "I've identified 17 critical nodes in their communication network," he reported. "If I can access their central command frequency, I can create chaos in their coordination." Ryan Cooper studied the fleet yards through long-range sensors, his demolitions expertise helping him identify the most vulnerable structural points. "The construction bays are built around a central power core," he noted. "If we can overload that system, the resulting explosion will destroy everything within 10 kilometers. Elena Rodriguez intercepted enemy communications, her enhanced hearing picking up conversations between Zephyrian commanders. "They're discussing Earth," she translated. "They consider our homeworld the ultimate prize. Once they finish with the outer colonies, they plan to attack the solar system directly." The battle at Kepler 442 began when the Nemesis dropped out of stealth directly above the enemy fleet yards. Alex's tactical plan relied on speed and surprise, hitting the Zephyrians before they could organize an effective defense. The first enemy ships to respond found themselves facing weapons designed specifically to exploit crystalline vulnerabilities. Marcus Thompson operated the ship's main cannon, a kinetic weapon that fired projectiles at near light speed. Each shot was carefully calculated to maximize structural damage to crystalline hulls, turning the aliens' own rigid composition against them. Enemy ships that had seemed invulnerable to energy weapons shattered like glass under the Dragon's precise fire. The Nemesis danced through the enemy formation with impossible grace, Alex's enhanced reflexes allowing him to pilot the ship through weapons fire that would have destroyed any normal vessel. The Dragons moved as one organism, each team member anticipating the other's actions with superhuman coordination. Danny's electronic warfare attack began as the ship approached the fleet. Yards, viral programs spreading through Zephyrian computer networks like wildfire. Enemy ships found their weapon systems turning against each other, their navigation computers providing false coordinates, their communication arrays broadcasting static instead of orders. Maria led boarding parties against Zephyrian capital ships, her team moving through enemy vessels with lethal efficiency. The aliens had never faced opponents who could match their physical capabilities while exceeding their tactical flexibility. Dragon operatives appeared in critical ship sections, eliminated resistance, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Meanwhile, Beta Squad infiltrated the Zephyrian homeworld through a different approach entirely. Lisa Park's team used captured alien technology to disguise their ship as a Zephyrian transport, allowing them to pass through orbital defenses undetected. Their mission was to reach the Imperial Palace and gather intelligence about enemy strategic planning. Tony Garcia led the infiltration of the palace's computer systems, his enhanced dexterity allowing him to interface with alien technology that would have been impossible for normal humans to operate. Within hours, he had accessed classified files containing Zephyrian expansion plans and prisoner locations. Kelly Brooks discovered that human captives from New Eden Colony were being held in research facilities beneath the palace. The aliens were conducting brutal experiments on them, studying human psychology and biology to develop more effective methods of conquest. Among the prisoners was a young girl named Sarah, who had become a symbol of resistance among the captives. Dr. Robert Chun, analyzing the rescued prisoners back on Earth, made a disturbing discovery about Zephyrian psychology. They don't view other species as intelligent life, he reported to Admiral Bennett. To them, we're nothing more than useful animals. This isn't war to them. It's pest control on a galactic scale. The intelligence gathered by Beta Squad revealed that the Zephyrians were planning something called the Final Cleansing, a massive assault designed to eliminate human resistance once and for all. 20 battle fleets were being assembled for simultaneous attacks on Earth and the major human colonies, with the goal of ending human civilization within a single coordinated strike dot as Alpha. Squad completed their destruction of the Kepler 442 fleet yards, the explosion visible from neighboring star systems. Word of human victories began to spread throughout the galaxy. Other species that had suffered under Zephyrian expansion started reaching out to Earth, offering military alliances and shared intelligence. The Altarian Republic, whose homeworld had been strip-mined by the Zephyrians 50 years earlier, pledged their remaining fleet to the human cause. The Vegan Confederacy, master shipbuilders whose vessels were nearly as advanced as Dragon technology, offered to construct new warships for the growing coalition. Even the mysterious Sirius Collective, beings of pure energy who rarely interacted with physical species, provided tactical intelligence about Zephyrian weaknesses. Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the Nemesis as it departed the ruins of the enemy fleet yards, watching debris that had once been 47 Zephyrian warships drift through space. His enhanced senses detected no satisfaction or pride in the victory, only the cold calculation of objectives achieved and new targets identified. Mission accomplished, he reported to Admiral Bennett. Enemy construction capabilities eliminated. The final battle for human survival began in the outer reaches of the solar system, where Admiral Bennett commanded a coalition fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 3,000 ships from 17 different species formed defensive lines around Earth, their crews united by a single purpose: stopping the Zephyrian Empire from completing their genocidal mission. Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, watching as enemy forces dropped out of hyperspace in waves that seemed endless. The Zephyrian Armada was massive beyond comprehension. 10,000 crystalline warships that glittered like deadly stars against the darkness of space. Emperor Zethkar had committed every available vessel to this final assault, determined to crush human resistance once and for all. Enemy fleet strength confirmed, Elena Rodriguez reported, her enhanced senses processing communication intercepts from across the battle zone. 10,400 Zephyrian vessels, including their entire battle fleet and siege platforms. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. Danny Clark worked frantically at his electronic warfare station, preparing to unleash viral programs that had been specifically designed to target Zephyrian command systems. Their communication networks are more heavily protected than before, he noted. They've learned from our previous attacks and upgraded their security protocols. Maria Santos checked her weapons one final time, her enhanced reflexes already, calculating firing solutions for the boarding actions that would be necessary to reach the enemy flagship. The Emperor's vessel is in the center of their formation, she observed. Getting to him will require fighting through their entire fleet. Ryan Cooper studied the tactical displays, his demolitions expertise helping him identify critical weaknesses in the enemy formation. If we can overload the power cores on their siege platforms, the chain reaction should cripple their ability to bombard Earth's surface. Marcus Thompson operated the ship's weapon systems, his massive frame perfectly suited for handling the heavy artillery that would be needed in the coming battle. Kinetic rounds loaded and ready, he announced. Each shot is optimized for maximum structural damage to crystalline hulls. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a new sun, energy beams and kinetic projectiles crossing the void at near light speed. Coalition ships fought with desperate courage, knowing that defeat meant the extinction of their species. Altarian vessels used their superior maneuverability to strike at enemy flanks, while vegan Confederacy ships provided heavy fire support with weapons nearly as advanced as Dragon technology. Admiral Bennett coordinated the overall defense from his flagship, watching as human and alien crews fought side by side against an enemy that had never known defeat. All units maintain formation, he ordered over the communication channels. Don't let them break through to Earth. The battle raged for hours, ships on both sides dying in brilliant explosions that briefly outshone distant stars. The Zephyrians pressed forward with mechanical precision, their superior numbers beginning to tell as coalition vessels were overwhelmed by concentrated fire. It became clear that conventional tactics alone would not be enough to stop the alien. Advance. Dragon Corps, this is your moment. General Hayes transmitted from Earth's command center. Everything depends on your mission succeeding. Alex Turner acknowledged the order and led his team toward the enemy flagship, their ship protected by stealth technology that made them invisible to Zephyrian sensors. The Imperial Palace ship was a massive crystalline structure that served as both warship and mobile command center, its surfaces reflecting the battle's light in patterns that hurt human eyes to observe directly. Lisa Parks, Beta Squad approached from a different vector, their mission to eliminate the siege platforms that threatened Earth's population centers. Tony Garcia had identified vulnerabilities in the platform's power distribution systems, weaknesses that could be exploited by precisely placed explosive charges. The Nemesis penetrated the enemy formation like a ghost. Alex's enhanced piloting skills allowing him to navigate through defensive fire that would have destroyed any normal vessel. Dragon operatives prepared for the most dangerous mission of their existence, knowing that failure would mean humanity's extinction. Initiating boarding procedures, Alex announced as the ship latched onto the enemy flagship's hull. Cutting tools designed for crystalline structures began carving through alien armor, creating an entry point for the Dragon assault team. The interior of the Zephyrian flagship was unlike anything humans had ever encountered. Vast chambers filled with crystalline formations that served as both architecture and living space for the silicon-based aliens. Alex led his team through corridors that rang like bells when their footsteps disturbed the crystal floors. Emperor Zeethkar waited in the ship's central chamber, a being of pure crystalline energy that towered above even the enhanced dragons. His voice resonated through the crystal walls like breaking glass as he spoke in perfect human language. So the primitive species has finally revealed its hidden weapons, he said, his tone carrying contempt that had been refined over centuries. Of conquest. You attacked our colonies, Alex replied, his emotionless voice cutting through the Emperor's arrogance. You killed our people. Now you face the consequences of that choice. The Emperor's form shifted and flowed like living diamond as he prepared for battle. Your species will be extinct within the hour, he declared. I have seen the death of 47 civilizations. Yours will be no different. The final confrontation between humanity's guardian and the alien emperor shook the massive ship with forces that transcended normal physics. Alex moved with superhuman speed and precision, his enhanced body allowing him to match the Emperor's. Energy-based attacks with kinetic strikes that shattered crystalline formations throughout the chamber. Meanwhile, Beta Squad completed their sabotage of the siege platforms, Ryan Cooper's explosives creating chain reactions that spread through the enemy's bombardment fleet. One by one, the massive weapons that threatened Earth's cities went silent, their power cores overloading in spectacular explosions. The battle in the Emperor's chamber reached its climax as Alex delivered a final strike that shattered Zethkar, crystalline form into a million glittering fragments. The alien ruler's death scream echoed through every Zephyrian ship in the fleet, a psychic shock that left enemy crews stunned and leaderless. Without their Emperor's unifying presence, Zephyrian resistance collapsed with shocking suddenness. Ships that had fought with mechanical precision moments before began fleeing in all directions, their crews abandoning the battlefield rather than face the terrible humans who had killed their immortal leader. Admiral Bennett watched in amazement as the enemy fleet scattered like leaves in a hurricane, 10,000 warships abandoning their invasion to escape into deep space. All units pursue and destroy, he ordered. But most of the Zephyrian vessels had already jumped to hyperspace, carrying news of their defeat to the farthest corners of the galaxy. The victory celebrations that followed were heard across human space and beyond, as species throughout the galaxy learned that the seemingly invincible Zephyrian Empire had been broken by humanity's hidden guardians. Jake Morrison, watching from the rebuilt New Eden colony, felt tears in his eyes as he realized his desperate beacon call had saved not just his world, but human civilization itself. Alex Turner and his dragons returned to Earth as heroes, their mission completed, but their vigil far from over. President Catherine Walsh honored them in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy, though she knew that the enhanced soldiers would never truly be able to return to normal life. The threat has been eliminated, Alex reported to the assembled leaders, his enhanced senses already scanning for new dangers that might emerge from the vast darkness of space. Zephyrian military power has been broken, their expansion halted, their leadership eliminated. General Hayes studied reports from across the galaxy, noting how other species were responding to humanity's unexpected victory. The balance of power has shifted, she observed. Other civilizations are requesting alliance treaties and mutual defense pacts. Humanity is no longer seen as a minor species. The Altarian Republic established permanent embassies on Earth, their survivors finally able to return to their homeworld now that Zephyrian occupation forces had fled. The Vegan Confederacy shared advanced shipbuilding techniques that would help humanity defend against future threats. Even the mysterious Sirius Collective offered ongoing intelligence support to monitor hostile activities across the galaxy. Dr. Kevin Nash analyzed the long-term implications of the war, his research showing how the conflict had transformed human society in fundamental ways. "We've learned that we're not alone in a hostile galaxy," he reported. "But we've also proven that we can defend ourselves and protect others who share our values." New Dragon recruits began their enhancement process. In facilities across human space, volunteers who understood the price of becoming humanity's eternal guardians. The program expanded beyond Earth, drawing candidates from the colonies that had been liberated during the war. Amy Rodriguez, now promoted to general, oversaw the reconstruction of defensive installations throughout human space. The colonies that had been attacked were rebuilt stronger than before,